Hey everyone, welcome to our junior high interactive family experience. My name is Pastor Ethan and I'm so excited that you are participating online today. Today is a really unique day and let me tell you why. It is National Backwards Day. It is National Hot Chocolate Day. It is National Inspire Your Heart with Art Day, and it's National Big Wig Day. I mean, the implications for today are huge. You've got the opportunity to have dinner for breakfast and breakfast for dinner. You could say goodbye instead of saying hello. You could watch a movie backwards. You could read a book starting with the last page. In addition to doing things backwards, you could also be drinking a hot chocolate while painting a masterpiece, all while wearing the biggest wig you can find. Today, there are no excuses for being bored. It's National Backward Hot Chocolate Big Wig Inspire Your Heart with Art Day. The options are absolutely endless. All right. Let me quickly tell you what you can expect for today. We're gonna get our competitive face on and have some friendly family competition. We're gonna start a brand new series called Awkward. And let me tell you, it's gonna be super awkward. And then all throughout our teaching video today, we are gonna pause for some discussion time. Now, parents, today, you are gonna lead your student in a few different activities and discussions, and those activities can be found and downloaded from an email I sent out this past week. If you didn't get that email, make sure you let me know so we can add your name to the mailing list. The best way to do these interactives is leading those activities and discussions with your student. In fact, it's the entire reason why we do this every week, so that you can have a clearer window into the spiritual development of your student and to create a space where you're helping them grow into everything God created them to be. So if you need to pause the video and go download those activity pages, please do so now. Well, we are about to get into our series, but before we do, we want to hear from you. We want to stay connected and we want to check in. So we've got something called a connection card where we can do that. Now the connection card is found right on the main page of the LakePoint app. And so we would love if you would take the next 60 seconds and fill out the card. It's basically like signing our guest book and letting us know you were here. So let's take the next minute and fill out the card together.
3, 2, 1.
Thanks for completing the connection card and signing our guest book. Now, every week here at Junior High, we have some friendly family competition. And today, you and your family are gonna put your eyesight to the test. In today's family competition, like I said, we are gonna put your eyes to the test. But instead of seeing, how far you can see, we're gonna zoom into a photo until it's crazy up close. So close that you won't be able to see what the photo is. And so everyone in your family has to guess what the photo is while it's extremely zoomed in. And as you guess, we are gonna slowly zoom out, displaying more of the photo over time. Now, whoever guesses the image correctly first wins that round. The family member who wins the most amount of rounds will be the supreme champion of up close photo guessing. I mean, who doesn't want that title? All right, here we go. Here's the first photo. All right, who won? Who guessed the most amount of photos? Typically, we would encourage you to let us know in our Facebook group. But because today is the last day of our 21 days of prayer and fasting campaign, and so many of you are participating in the digital detox, we aren't going to be using Facebook today. But what you can do is you can email or text me the winner and I will send them a prize. All right, we are gonna switch gears and we're gonna head into the teaching portion of junior high. Now, parents, if you haven't read my email from this past week, and if you haven't downloaded the weekly discussion and parent guide, we are launching a brand new series called Awkward, and I need to tell you about it just really quickly because it's going to be awkward. For the next 4 weeks, we are diving into a conversation that's all about attraction and desires. So, if you haven't read that email, it's not too late to pause this video and take the next 10 minutes to go and read it now. If you didn't receive it, check your junk mail folder or just click the link right below this video. It is so important that you pause the video and read that email before continuing. If you don't, you are in for a real surprise. And it's not like this really exciting surprise birthday kind of surprise. It's more of like a super awkward, like what in the world just happened kind of surprise. So pause the video if you haven't read that email, or just click the link right below and it'll take you straight to it. Okay, now that you know what to expect, let's dive into week 1 of our series titled Awkward. The name of this series is, it's a word that most people know and use a lot, awkward. If you're anything like me, you've experienced some pretty awkward situations in your lifetime so far. I'm actually gonna give you a situation, and if you think it's awkward, I want you to say, awkward. If you don't think it's awkward at all, I want you to like boo as loud as you can. Are you ready? Here's the first one. Seeing a teacher when you're out to eat with your family. What about falling down the stairs at school? Or maybe your dad telling an awful joke when your friends are over. There's also anything in the health section of gym class, or accidentally sending your parents a text that was supposed to go to your best friend. What about waving at someone who you thought was waving at you, but they were definitely not? And then the last one, when you squeeze the ketchup bottle during dinner and it makes gassy noises. Yes, those situations are awkward, they're cringy, they're uncomfortable and embarrassing, and because of that, they make us feel awkward too. I think for most of us, awkward moments are probably something we try and avoid. Well, for the next 4 weeks, we're diving into a series called Awkward, and we're gonna lean into probably one of the things that tops your list of awkward stuff: attraction and desires. Yes, that's right. We're gonna be spending 4 whole weeks talking about dating, having a crush on someone, when someone else has a crush on you, and all the feelings and emotions that come with those scenarios. Well, you might feel weird, uncomfortable, strange, or even awkward talking about things like this, but let me assure you, you are not alone. In fact, those feelings are completely normal. And even though it might be easier to avoid the awkward moments of having to hear the words like attraction and desires and feelings and temptations, we believe that this is the best place to have conversations like this because we care about you and we want to help you understand what this stuff means, even if it might be a little awkward along the way. Now, there are a few words that are going to come up a lot in this series. So let's start by getting on the same page about what those words mean. First, let's talk about attraction. And when I say attraction, I mean a feeling of liking or being interested in someone else. That's what I mean by attraction. You're also going to hear me mention desires throughout this series. And here's what I mean by that word. It just simply means a strong feeling of wanting to have or do something. And when we put those two words into the context of what we're talking about, here's what they look like practically. Here's some examples of what these words might look like. When you think someone is really, really cute, or when you sit next to someone just because you want to be near them. When you get that nervous feeling in your stomach when you talk to a certain somebody. Or when you think about that person you like all the time when you aren't with them. A couple more examples. When you see a photo of someone or someone sends you a photo of them and you get these weird feelings. When you have a desire to express your feelings through physical touch with someone else like kissing or cuddling or something beyond. Or when you're tempted to look at pictures or videos that you find attractive. All of that stuff, they are examples of desires that you may be experiencing. And here's the thing about that. Having these kinds of attractions or these kinds of desires is both normal and natural. In fact, God actually gave us the ability to experience these kinds of things. And so we're going to be talking about this for the next couple weeks, and here's what I want you to know right away. This isn't easy to talk about, and I get it. Sometimes the stuff we see or hear makes us feel awkward, or maybe we want to know more. Maybe we're curious. Maybe we've never talked about it before because we're not really sure if it's even okay to talk about. Or maybe we don't like talking about it because we don't understand it. After all, we might not be experiencing attraction or desires, and we may not have a lot of interest in things like dating. And that's okay. But here's why it's so important for us to talk about. Attraction and desires are not bad things. And being curious and having questions about them isn't wrong either. It's not something we have to be embarrassed or feel awkward about. In fact, it's actually part of the way we were designed. You see, we were all created by God to experience attraction and have desires. We were made to express our desire in ways that are good, loving, and natural. And that nervous excitement you get when you like someone or when your hand bumps theirs, or even when you think about them, that's a good and normal thing. That's something that you were created for. That's something you were created to feel. The problem, though, comes when we're not sure how to respond to those desires or how to even talk about them with someone else. But trust me, there's an answer. There's a specific plan that God created for our attraction and desires. And even though it might be awkward, I want to talk about it today because it's something I really want you to understand. You see, God actually cares a lot about our attractions and desires. And people who really love God wrote down all kinds of stuff about relationships, desires, and what it means for us as Christ followers. And we can find all of that in our Bibles. And so today, we're going to look at some wise advice about desires that was written by a really important guy named Paul. Now, Paul, he wrote a lot of the books in the New Testament, which is, part of the Bible that's about Jesus and what happened after he was on earth. And these books written by Paul were letters that he originally wrote to Christians to help them understand how to live and follow Jesus. You see, following Jesus was a new thing back then. And because of that, people needed help figuring it out. And Paul was really good at helping them see what mattered to God and what should matter to those who follow him. And honestly, I think we'd all say that we still need that kind of help today. That's why I think we can turn to Paul's words to help us understand a little more about what we're supposed to do with our God-given desires. Let's take a look. We're going to look in the book of Romans in chapter 12, verses 1-2. This is what it says. It says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Now, I know that's a lot in just 2 verses, so let's break it down. Paul started talking off about who God is. He's someone who offers us mercy. And mercy simply means getting compassion and kindness when you don't deserve it. When your teacher doesn't take points off your homework for being late, even though those are the rules, she's showing you mercy by not giving you the bad grades you might have deserved. Now, because we're human, we mess up sometimes, or we mess up all the time. We make mistakes and wrong decisions that don't always line up with what God has in mind for us. We end up choosing to do things that we want instead of the best. We end up choosing to do the things that we want instead of the things that God wants for us. That's called sin. And because of sin, we all deserve to be separated from God. But instead, God had mercy on us. He sent his son Jesus to save us and bring us back into relationship with him. And that's ultimately the act of mercy. Paul was saying that because God has been merciful to us, we can know that he is kind to us. And that means we can trust him when he tells us the best way to live. We can respond to what God has done for us, his kindness to us, by living the way he called us to live. And so he wants us to live with integrity. Integrity means doing the right thing in all circumstances, even if no one is watching. And when it comes to our desires, he wants us to live with integrity. That means choosing to respond to the sexual things we feel, think, and desire in a way that respects ourselves, others, and God. You see, Paul explained that we should use our desires in a way that is pleasing to God. It's not that we're supposed to get rid of or ignore our desires. It's natural to have them. But we should respond to our desires in ways that are good and pleasing and honorable to God, ourselves, and others. That is integrity. You see, God designed sex as a way for married couples to connect with each other on a deeper level. It's a way to express their love for each other. And when we set boundaries and when we respect others and ourselves, we're choosing to honor God's plan for sex. In other words, what we do with our desires matters. Sounds great, right? I mean, respond to your desires in a way that are good and pleasing to God. Honor God with desires. No problem, right? Choose integrity. Easy peasy. Well, not really. You see, it's one thing to read verses like this and hear messages about God's good plan for our desires, but it's another to actually know what it looks like to live it out on a daily basis. When we find ourselves curious to watch that YouTube clip, or interested in holding hands with someone at school, or drawn to pictures that a friend sent to us, or we're just curious about the ways our bodies are changing, then what do? How do we respond in a way that honors God? Well, look back to the last part of Paul's letter. He says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." So we can start by renewing or changing our minds. We can ask God to show us his plan for our desires. We can ask him to change the way we see it, to understand it better, to notice how it's impacting our lives. And we can trust his plan because it's a really good plan. See, when it comes to all this attraction stuff, God is actually for you. The way he asks us to honor him with our desires is actually a really good thing. He wants to help us express our desires in ways that are healthy and positive for us and the people around us. And when we start by changing our minds and asking God to help us see it as He does, we'll be able to better pay attention. And when we start by changing our minds and asking God to help us see as He does, we'll better be able to pay attention to these things. We'll be able to notice when our responses to those desires are off. And we'll be able to notice when someone else is encouraging or even forcing us to act in a way that doesn't fit with what we know God wants for us when it comes to relationships. For everyone watching today, this is the truth that I really want you to understand. God loves you. He created you to experience attraction and desires. And what you do with your desires matters. So what can we do to make sure that what we do with our desires matters? Well, here's a few thoughts. Number one, we can choose integrity. Remember, integrity is choosing to respond to the sexual things we feel, think, and desire in ways that respects ourselves, others, and God. You have a chance right now to set a standard for how you're going to respond to desires. You get to decide how you're going to act, what pictures you're going to send or download, what you're going to wear, and the words you choose to speak when you speak. You get to choose what you're going to watch, look at, or think about. And maybe up until now, you found yourself maybe not choosing integrity. Maybe you've made decisions that haven't honored God with your desires. Or maybe you've even found yourself in situations that you didn't expect or ask for. Situations that you weren't ready for and didn't seek out for yourself. For many of us, the good news is that no matter what we've chosen or dealt with in the past, we can always begin to choose integrity today. Number two, we can pay attention. You know, God has a plan when it comes to our desires. God designed sex as a way for married couples to connect with each other on a deeper level. It's a way to express their love for each other. So when you hear or see something that doesn't really match up to that plan, you need to pay attention. Notice things that push you or tempt you to not honor God, to not honor other people, to not honor yourself with your desires. And number three, talk about desires in a positive and appropriate way with adults that you trust. They can help you set healthy boundaries and they can be this safe place to process struggles or questions that you have about these kinds of things. You see, your parents have more wisdom and insight than you think. And because of that, they love you and want what's best for you when it comes to attraction and desire. So talk to them. Okay, so was that as awkward as you thought it was going to be? I hope not. Because the truth is, we want you to feel safe to have conversations about things like attraction and desires at church and at home. So thanks for pushing past the awkwardness today and having great conversations. But here's the thing, don't let the conversation stop today. We've got 3 more weeks to go. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, everyone. Remember, you could email me or text me to let me know the winning family member from today's competition, and I will send you a prize. Now, to close our time this morning, take the next 2 minutes to pray together as a family or just continue those conversations you've had, and then head to the LakePoint app to access our weekday devotionals that go along with our series. You'll find them in the family resources section. You can also find the link in the video description right below me. Have a wonderful week, friends, and we will see you next week.